we were assigned to the 740th Tank Battalion, which was fine and well. We didn't know anybody, of course. We were replacements, and they told me that, well, we're going to put you in the assault gun platoon, but because one of the tank crew members on the tank got this illness that was going around, and they had to send him back to England, and didn't get back until after the Siegfried Line battle. And so when he came back, well, I had to give him my spot, which was all right with me. I was a newcomer, and I sure didn't want to cause anything to find out how old I was. So the whole idea was to keep your mouth shut and stay out of trouble, which I did. So anyway, the 740th had trained at Fort Knox, and then they went to the Arizona desert. And when they got to the Arizona desert, they gave them top secret clearance, and they said, we're going to put you into a program here that's highly top secret, not to be mentioned by anybody. You don't even mention the name. What it was called was Canal Defense Light, CDL. Don't mention that word to anybody. Well, how are we going to talk about it? He said, well, we call them gizmos. Okay, gizmos. So all they were was a standard Sherman tank with and the M3s, Lee Grants. They take the turret off of it. They put a special turret on without a main gun, and it had just two slits in the front instead of a gun. And it was rounded to fit right into the way it should, but the top was flat. It's kind of like a big cheese box is what it reminded you of. Well, inside, between these two slits, about that wide, inside between there was a camera. It was like a camera. It was an arc light, which they pointed back to the rear of the turret, and then it came into a concave mirror, and of course it came out brighter, and it went through these two slits, and then the operator sat there with like they were with a signal light, and they were just flicking that, and this was giving you the impression like you get when you open and close your eyes. This was supposed to blind the German anti-tank gunners. The only trouble is the Germans were a little smarter than that, so they invented the infrared gun sights. Of course, they could look right through it, so it negated the whole damn thing. And meanwhile, they also had to train as on the tanks as a regular tank, as gunners and crew members, what have you. And everybody had to qualify in the weapons that they were assigned. And since the crew was also assigned to a main gun, they had to qualify on that too. So they became excellent gunners, just excellent, and we found that out later on. So anyway, the program then said, they had to go over to Europe. So they were sent the battalion over to Europe, still as a CDL unit. Got over there and they had to train as a CDL unit again in Wales and England. Finally, that's because of all this training, they missed D-Day. This just drove our battalion commander crazy. He wanted to fight, so he was unhappy. So anyway, they decided, hey, wait a minute. The desert is a lot different than mainland Europe. You got hills and you got hedgerows and all kinds of different landscape. In the desert, pretty much flat. So the CDLs would work okay over there, I guess. But somebody finally wised up. So they took the name CDL away from them, made them a standard medium tank battalion. So of course they already had training in it, so they put them through training again for that, and they went through like those assaults, And so when they got there, when they finished that training, the colonel, our battalion commander, he finagled 2 LSTs to take the battalion over to France. And how he did this, I don't know, but they told him, you have to leave your tanks here. You'll get new tanks when you get to Europe. He said, okay. So he took them over, two LSTs, landed at Utah Beach, and got there and he asked the beach master, where do we get our tanks? And he said, tanks? He said, I don't know anything about tanks. He says, send somebody up the First Army and ask them where they want you. So he sent the executive officer up, and we agreed to meet him at the edge at the east side of Paris. So we got to the east side of Paris in 6x6 trucks, the whole battalion, and we waited for him, and he showed up, And he says, okay, they want the battalion to be taken to the town of Neufchâteau, Belgium. And when you get there, First Army commander wants you to be sure and report to him. And he thought, oh boy, because he was really illegally there with the battalion. So they went to Neufchâteau. I wasn't in it yet. And when the colonel got to Neufchâteau, he reported in the First Army headquarters, and they say, why are you here? And we don't need you. And he says, well, we want to fight. They said, well, the war's almost over. You're not going to be doing any fighting. So just go back to Neufchâteau and keep order there until we need you. If and when we need you, we'll call you. So back in Neufchâteau, the battalion was when I hit there. And all we were supposed to do is just keep the Belgians off the streets after curfew and keep law and order. Well, hell, those people, it was nothing to law and order. I mean, they were the most peaceable people in the world. Meanwhile, we were there waiting, and finally on the 16th of December, Battle of the Bulge started. We could hear boom, boom, boom out in the distance. And wonder what's going on. So nobody knew anything until finally the word came down that the Germans were trying to get back in.